Doing marketing and running a marketing business is not the same. I thought they were the same. I think this is the format that will only keep growing. I haven't done this before in this format, sharing my podcast experience, how people do it, as well as the guest, how he's doing it, how he's actually sharing value is very unique. 1 year or so, we're seeing a lot of podcasts coming up. Brands do want to have a very unique voice. They want to develop that, and they want to develop that thought leadership. And I think this is the year of podcast 2025, not only in our industry, in a lot of other industries. It's good to be on the other side.
Hi everyone, Peach Marathons here. Welcome. Today's guest, Manish from Surya Palli. He's a fractional CMO of B2B iGaming and tech companies, founder of 10X brand, and the host of Manish Palli podcast, Manish Palli show. We'll talk about interviews, the tool for storytelling and trust, how leaders should show up on camera, what really makes marketing and content work in today's iGaming. Hi, Manish. Thank you for joining our interview. Thank you for your time. This is very much appreciated. And, before we start, let us know how are you?
I'm doing great. I think I'm waiting for the holidays, Christmas and New Year. This is probably one of the best times of the year.
One of the happiest times and one of the busiest times. Yeah, we are combining. Okay, and since you are one of the most popular interviewers in our industry, of course, we'll be talking about the interviews, podcasts, and this is very interesting to us. What was the moment when you realized, okay, this is my thing and I want to do this?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. First of all, thank you so much, Aziz, for inviting me to your interview. It's good to be on the other side, and thank you for the opportunity for also for me to share the experience along the process. So before doing the podcast and interviews, I have been head of marketing or marketing manager in the iGaming space. I started in 2017. I worked at brands like Sigma, Sin, WA Technology. And I also started consulting B2B brands last year. And this year I felt like, LinkedIn has a lot of AI content. And I felt like I needed to do something about it, as in, I needed to find a way to communicate and express myself in a unique way. And that is when I got the idea of a podcast from one of my mentors. And he was pushing me. You have to start a podcast. You have to interview the best people and the people who are building within the iGaming space, and that will give you the authority. So for me, public speaking was also kind of one of the fear I had. I haven't done much public speaking before doing these podcasts. And I felt like, okay, this is the opportunity for me this year to work on this fear and to see what's on the other side. And to my surprise, after doing a couple of interviews, I found that this is actually something that I enjoy because, I'm a people person. I like being around people. I like conversations. I like, just deep diving into a lot of things. And I understood that once I started doing these interviews and podcasts, I saw that it is really coming naturally in terms of what to do and how to do, and it feels like flow for me. So that's when I realized, oh, this is not so bad. This is not like what I imagined to be, and I fell in love with doing it, and I did more of them, and that's how everything started. And I think my biggest learning from this whole process is that I think when we have some big fear about something, it is a good possibility that there is a passion on the other side once we unlock the fear. And that's what it happened for me. Our biggest fears probably also are hiding our biggest talents.
Absolutely. I agree. Something similar happened to me, and that was also a kind of going out of this comfort zone and facing all these fears. And eventually, I understand that it's a big pleasure to when this flow is going, and when it's coming, and some magic is happening. When the interview is on and when recording button is hit. So yeah, and you correctly mentioned that interviews are all about the people. And I'm wondering, was there any special person, special interview where that made you realize this format actually has real impact in the industry?
Yeah, it was the episode with Eman Police. I was quite nervous going into that episode because obviously he was my previous employer, and I was quite not sure like how much I could I could listen to him or how much he would open to me. But it turned out really interesting. I learned about his story, and I never knew about these things before. Even we were working for a number of years, I didn't know so many things, but he shared them during the podcast, and that is when I felt like people do want to help. When you ask, people do want to help, and people do want to share their stories if they know that it could be helpful for others. So, and this is also a good thing. And that podcast has got a lot of appreciation from my close friends as well as colleagues and previously co-workers. So then I understood, okay, this thing, there is a value in how we do it. And I also understood that the guest is really important. If they have something good to say, if they have already made it in terms of business, this is the most important thing. And probably this is the most important factor of any podcast, any interview, which is the reputation as well as the journey of the guest and how well he or she can speak. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And also editing and all these things come into factor, but they're all like secondary. Now we prefer more raw, unedited, and just people speaking to camera kind of content, right? So these are my learnings from doing some episodes.
Yeah, we also talked to Iman. He also participated in this interview series, and yeah, as you mentioned, you are kind of nervous when you're talking to these big people in the industry. But eventually, when you are talking, he appeared to be very very open and very very simple person. And yeah, we also had a very warm talk and. Strong people are delivering strong ideas, telling strong words, but there are a lot of strong actions behind these words as well. So this is something that inspires me a lot here. It is not. It
And
is.
it is
Yeah.
also a personal and just to mention this point, it is also like I have personally learned a lot of things being on podcast, like hosting the podcast myself, from the things that the guests are saying on it. Either it could be motivational, either it could be related to some challenges they face, or either it could be related to pure business. I have learned a lot of things in a short span just by hosting podcasts, because if I would have to learn these things by myself, maybe it would have taken much more time, or maybe I wouldn't have learned it in this way.
Our industry is still more about LinkedIn posts, about PR articles, about conference talks, awards, and interviews are just gaining this momentum. But you briefly mentioned, but could you please elaborate more? Comparing to all these things, what interviews actually give on top of everything mentioned? Why are they more special?
Yeah, I think this is a very important point. What you're asking, iGaming industry, especially in B2B, has always been about events, about PR in iGaming media and awards. These are the traditional channels that the industry has been using for the past 15, 20 years since the beginning, right? So as an industry, I think we are very much risk averse. We like to stick to what we know, what works, and we like to stick to relationships. This is the traditional norm. However, in the last 1 year or so, we're seeing a lot of podcasts coming up. Brands do want to have a very unique voice. They want to develop that, and they want to develop that thought leadership. And I think this is the year of podcast 2025, not only in our industry, in a lot of other industries. You know how everyone used to have a blog back in the day in 2010, 11, 12? It's that kind of era where now everyone wants to have their own podcast. Because the thing is, now with AI in the picture, the text content is kind of democratized to a large extent. Anyone is able to create number of pieces of content in a few minutes. So now what is unique is showing our face. But just showing our face and talking to camera, not everyone can do it, because you need to have experience, you need to have the right intention, you need to have experience to be able to share something valuable just by yourself. However, if you're just starting out, doing interviews or podcasts is a very good way to start, because you can just convince people who are already successful to come on board and then share their story. So that way it's easier to like run the podcast, and whatever happens on podcast, it's all very unique content, because each person brings a different story and each person is different, and that is what makes it unique about this. Even though if we can call it as a PR activity, still it works better than the traditional PR channels, just because it's video.
Absolutely, absolutely. People are not reading; they are watching more, and yeah, the best type of content for sure. And you mentioned PR. Of course, there is a big component of PR here. Of course, it's not a secret. But what is the biggest PR value here? Interviews have very big PR component when people are coming and they are promoting their brand, their personal brand, or they are looking for expanded networking. Is there something else besides this? Any marketing value besides these three mentioned things?
I think it's also an opportunity to meet new people, which otherwise may be not possible to meet. For example, if we ask 20 minutes from people who are really highly successful, they might hesitate to come and share that on a call. But if it's a podcast, definitely, because it is also valuable for them, because it'll be an addition to their personal brand. So I find it quite an interesting format also to meet really highly successful people and personally learn a lot from them. And of course, it is an addition to the thought leadership. It is a platform for the guest to also build their brand. But I think this is the format that will only keep growing, because the way how people do it, as well as the guest, how he's doing it, how he's actually sharing value is very unique.
Absolutely. And let it just grow and develop in 2026. The 2025 was the year of podcasts. 2026 will be the second year of podcasts. I don't know, another year of podcasts. Let it be like that. Let it be like that. And there is no competition here.
Yeah.
So we are all adding value to
Mhm.
to this media space in general, in our industry, of course. But now it's time to reveal your secrets. So
Mhm.
tell us, please, what do you do before an interview so your guest feels safe and comfortable and open? How do you build this trust in such a short time? Because I participated in your interview myself, and it was actually a talk of two friends. Actually,
Mm.
I have taken it like that, so I felt it like that. So how do you do it? How do you do this?
Thank you so much. First of all, I just I think before starting the podcast, like the day or two before, I do watch a lot of other podcasts, not only in iGaming but just general very famous YouTubers, and I just watch how they do it. Like, what is the question they are asking, and how is the question related to what the guest is speaking? What is the relevance, and what they are trying to do? So I just watch a lot of podcasts, and I think subconsciously I kind of learn a few things from how some of my favorite podcasters do it. So this is one thing, which is very general. Some of the specific things that I do is I do study the guests' LinkedIn very thoroughly, where they have started, what they have done, and so on. And I also see if the guest has done any interviews online, like the text interviews in any media. And then the final step is I see if they have done any YouTube videos before, like interviews. And this is where the actual work starts. I start watching all those interviews. If it's a famous guest and if he has a lot of interviews, then I just choose the last two recent ones. Then I watch them and I see what the guest is talking about, what is his or her experience and expertise. And then I try to frame questions in such a way that are a follow up to his previous interview. Because a lot of times the guests that we have might go to different podcasts, and if we are asking the same question, they might end up saying the same thing again, to the same audience. So whenever I try to research, I see if he has done some video before, and I try to base that video, and then from then on I ask like follow-up questions to what those questions were, and that has worked quite well in some of the events. And even like when I reach out with these kind of questions to some big people, they do tend to be open to accepting my interview, because they see that I have done my research, and that I have given the respect that I have looked into them, seen their journey, and so on and so forth. So guests do like that when we do the research and we come up with questions that are detailed and deep, rather than just generic. So these are like some of my approaches. I also quite find it interesting that there's a tool now called Notebook LM. It's an AI tool by Google, I think, and it is very good at summarizing YouTube videos. So if I give it the link of a YouTube video, it can create a mind map for me in terms of what are the topics discussed, what are the summaries, and I can chat with the Notebook LM, ask questions, and so on and so forth. So this is a very recent development, but I find it really interesting while I prepare the questions. and the script.
Thanks for sharing. So thorough preparation. But when you're watching some other podcasts
Mhm.
with the guest that will come, or just in general, don't you have this feeling inside of you that you might inherit their style and mimic it, or maybe subconsciously, but this way you may lose your personal style? Do you have this feeling? How do you get rid of it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Um, I haven't thought about this, to be honest. I do watch a lot of podcasts, but the way I do it is quite my style. Usually, I don't think I have emulated anyone so far, so it just comes naturally. I do prepare a set of questions and set of topics that I want to discuss, but during the interview, I don't look at them. I just go free flow. It's kind of like we prepare well and then we forget. Then we see what happens during the interview. This is totally free flow, because I think that is how, because audience can feel it if it is scripted or if it is free flow. They can feel it and it changes their experience. So for me, it's very important to be free flow when I'm on camera, and I just try to be as natural as possible.
Absolutely, and you are. But still, you mentioned that the questions are pre-scripted, then you forget about it. But still, what is the amount of improvisation is happening in your interviews? So just maybe in percentage.
Yeah, I think about 40 to 50% is improvisation. I do have a structure on how the interview should go. Like, okay, this is the intro, this is where we want to, but everything is kind of connected. So I have this just in my mind, but based on how the guest is answering, some questions may not be relevant. So I improvise questions based on what the guest is answering, and it is very important to maintain the continuity. Sometimes we may have to miss a couple of questions. Sometimes we may have to add a few questions. Sometimes I do also add controversial questions, and of course, it is up to the guest to decide if they want to answer or not. But it's it's not very common that they do controversial questions, because at the end of the day, I do want to show the guest in a good way and in a positive sense overall, rather than doing some feats just for engagement.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is something I wanted to talk about the next. Things you avoid doing, even if they probably may bring more clicks, more engagement, but you don't. So the first thing is to still keep a good image of your respondent. What thing else?
Yeah, I think that's very important. The person has said yes and is dedicating some time for me, who's a newbie. So, in my opinion, I am not going to show him or her in a bad way or in that sense. So that's first thing. And the second thing is, on the other hand, I also don't want to allow pure promotion, as in just straight away pure promotion from the guest. It has to have some kind of value to the people who are watching. So I try to maintain that balance between driving that conversation in a way that is useful for the audience. If naturally, if he or she is able to promote his brand, that is great, but it shouldn't be too obvious that, he or she is promoting. So these are the two things I try to avoid.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And as you mentioned, interviews, they are more about real natural conversations. It's not Q&A. It's not just a prescripted dialogue or marketing lines. But not to blame anyone. But we can see many interviews that are purely scripted marketing lines, and people they really feel that. But respondents, when they are coming, the people you are interviewing, they are also coming with some unrestricted things about their brand, about their personal brand to tell. Do you have any practical tips of how to get some real humane answers rather than these prescripted things? And yeah.
Yeah, I do. I usually don't share my questions with the guest before. So, and I've seen a lot of podcasters actually advise on this topic. So when I was doing a research on how I should start my podcast, I saw that many big YouTubers don't share their scripts or questions with the guest before the interview. So the reason being, when we don't share the script, what we get will be naturally, not scripted. I mean, they can prepare and do all sort of things, but usually I found that when I don't share the script, things have been, the interviews have been more raw and more unfiltered in that sense.
Absolutely. And yeah, and they are
Also,
becoming
I
more interesting
usually
to watch.
and And also, just to give another line on this, I usually give a bit of paragraph to the guest. Hey, I mean, we're going to be talking about what is not working in iGaming B2B and how a new company can build a brand. So I share these paragraphs, which are very generic, high level, top level, but also vague. But I don't share the exact questions usually. And this is what, because, they also need to know what the interview is going to be about, more or less. So they appreciate the communication, but they don't need to know everything step by step as to what the question.
It's watch. So you're keeping this balance because serious and senior people they prefer to know what to expect and at least to plan the time. So you need to balance, right?
Yeah, and you're right. And some of the guests, they do ask me, hey, Surya, Manish, whatever, can you send the questions to me? And to those, I say, yeah, sure. I mean, I will send you some questions and I'll tell them like, hey, these are not all the questions. I may or may not ask all, but this is some.
About your names, I may have mistaken, but just recently you were Manish on LinkedIn, and then probably you've changed to Surya and Manish in brackets. What was it about? What's your real name?
It's all part of my name. I have four legal first names, and Surya and Manish both are part of my legal name. And before 2023, it was Surya Manish all on online. And in 2023, I wanted to go with Manish, so I just changed to from Surya to Manish in 2023. And then for some reason, I just feel like going back to being Surya for the new year because I don't know. It's just feeling I'm very intuitive. I follow perceptions as well. So it's just something that happened for the new year, let's say. But all are part of my legal name.
So thanks for sharing. That's important. I had this question, and that's good. I didn't forget it. Can you share any probably funny story when a guest has surprised you? Maybe without mentioning any names, of course, but was there anything funny that you've memorized and probably even posted?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time when I was improvising the questions. I went too far controversial, and the guest has answered the question, but she asked me not to publish it. And that was the time I realized, oh, maybe I went too far down the line. But it was interesting because I've realized that not everything can be as raw as we want, because still the guests do have a say about like what can be or what cannot be online, unless we tell them that, hey, this is completely raw. In that sense, then we need to do a live recording, which will be completely raw and unedited. But for me, I was surprised a little bit because first of all, I didn't expect myself to go that far in terms of improvisation, and also I didn't expect that a guest would ask something to be removed. So that was a new experience for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, with me, this haven't happened so far, but yeah, now I know that this is also possible. Yeah, but of course, I'm also giving. I'm always giving this final decision is it's up to the respondent because yeah, this is ethics we need to follow and just general common sense rules. Thank you very much. So yeah, Manish, it's a pleasure to talk to you. And since this is a festive season, Christmas, New Year, could you please tell something good and motivating to our audience, maybe to me personally?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone has different experiences every single year, including me. For me, this year was very exciting, very energy consuming, a lot of new things. Podcast is completely new. I didn't do it before this year. So there was a lot of learning, there was a lot of ups and downs, and there was a lot of understanding as well how the market is. And I also personally realized that, doing marketing and running a marketing business is not the same. I thought they were the same in the beginning because when you're running a business, there's a lot of other things like sales, there's account management, there's finance, there's accounting, there's a whole lot of other things. So for me, it has been a year of real transformation, and I have kind of uncovered my love for doing the podcast, doing the interviews, being on camera, facing these public fears. So my message is very simple. It is to myself and also to anyone watching, is to face your fears, and you'll be surprised what you will see on the other side. And I think the coming year, I also want to pick up any other fears that I have and work on them and conquer them. And maybe next year we speak again about another fear and how it went so far.
Thank you very much for sharing. This is really motivating, and from my end, I also wish you to face these fears, to overcome them, to turn them into something great and new. I wish you lots of strength to continue to do what you are doing, lots of patience to take care of all the other things outside of the interviews you are loving so much. And yeah, take care, and I hope we will talk soon. Either way, either during an event or maybe during another interview. Maybe we'll do an in real life podcast together. So let's see. 2026 would be full of surprises, I hope.
Definitely, yeah. And thank you so much again for inviting me to your interview. It was really good sharing this experience. I haven't done this before in this format, sharing my podcast experience. So it was really enjoyable to look back. And I wish you the best in terms of running this interview series. And if I can help in any way, of course, I'm just a text away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was wonderful. Really, really. And we are the first ones who talked to you about what you're doing, and you are doing it very well. Thank you very much, Manish.
Thank you. Bye bye.